Okay, let's dive into this. We're going to explore a really fascinating philosophy for how ideas can be shared in a more natural, organic way. It's called Withovism, and the whole thing frames an idea not as something you push on people, but as something you plant and just allow to grow, kind of like a forest.
And that brings us to a really fundamental question, right? Especially today. I mean, think about it. We live in a world of aggressive marketing, social media echo chambers, just shouting matches online. So how do you get a powerful concept out there without resorting to all that pressure or manipulation? How do you let an idea actually find its own roots? This is the core problem this whole philosophy is trying to solve.
So let's start at the very beginning with what this framework calls the seed in the jar. The core belief here is that every truly great concept starts out as a pure, natural seed. It's a piece of raw truth that's observed in the world, not something invented by a person.
This slide gets into a key practice called beauty by Itselfonology. Yeah, it's a mouthful, I know, but it's basically the art of finding that seed, that piece of raw nature or pure logic, and capturing it exactly as it is. It's like finding a really unique wildflower and putting it in a glass jar so you can study it without accidentally crushing it. The whole point is to keep the source pure and untainted.
And this, right here, brilliantly illustrates the central conflict at the heart of this philosophy. On one side, you've got ego, where things are born from nature, and you just observe and understand them. But on the other side, you've got ego, where systems are built by human will, usually for control and manipulation. This philosophy, well, it plants itself firmly in the ego camp.
So, you've got your pure seed in a jar. Now what, right? This brings us to the next stage, the strategy for growth. It's called the patient gardener. It's all about how you nurture that idea, and it uses an approach the source material calls the old monk strategy. And here it is. The core principle of that whole strategy boiled down to just two powerful words. Patience is greater than pressure. It's about creating the absolute perfect conditions for something to grow, and then just stepping back. Trusting that the idea itself is strong enough to take root on its own. This slide breaks that down even more. The philosophy totally rejects what it calls linking, using manipulation and pressure to engineer the outcome you want. Instead, it's all about loving, which is this approach of gentle exposure. It's basically the difference between dragging someone down a forest path to show them a flower versus just letting them discover its beauty all on their own.
I absolutely love this analogy, the mirror friend strategy. Just think about your best friend. They don't tell you what to do, right? They listen and they reflect your own thoughts back at you so you can see things more clearly. That's the role of the gardener here, to just reflect the idea's own logic without ever trying to claim you own it.
Okay, so we've gone from a single little seed to a patient strategy for its growth. Now let's zoom out to the ultimate vision, which is honestly nothing short of creating an entire self-sustaining ecosystem of knowledge, a forest of shared wisdom.
And to really get how ambitious this is, just look at this timeline. This philosophy doesn't just see itself as some new communication tactic. No, it sees its place in a huge evolutionary context, as a tiny but meaningful step in the vast history of life on Earth. I mean, this is truly thinking on a planetary scale.
This leads to a really crucial constitutional principle here. Authority is responsibility, not ownership. What that means is, just because you have deep knowledge about something, that doesn't give you the right to control it or hoard it. It actually gives you the responsibility to care for it and to share it. You're a steward of that truth, not its king.
And here's how that big vision becomes practical. The goal is to build an open ecosystem where wisdom is accessible to literally everyone, right on their phone. But, and this is super important, it has to be safeguarded by a kind of digital constitution to prevent any single person or group, what the source calls puppet power, from taking centralized control. So that brings us to the final, and maybe the most important piece of the puzzle. How does this forest of ideas actually grow and spread on its own? Well, it happens through a really practical, repeatable process for creating new seeds. And that process is called nextonology. You can pretty much think of it as the engine of the entire ecosystem. It's a learning cycle that's designed to take one raw source of truth, that original seed in the jar, and transform it into countless new forms, which allows the idea to spread organically all over the world.
And here's exactly how it works. It's a simple four-step cycle. First, you start with the raw source material, and you learn it. Then, you work to truly understand its core logic. From that understanding, you create new ways of expressing it, videos, audio, graphics, whatever. And finally, you share it, patiently exposing other people to the idea.
And just look at the potential here. This isn't just a one-to-one thing. A single source, just one seed,
can be transformed into more than 11 different formats. This is how the forest grows. One seed gives rise to many, and every single one of them is capable of finding new ground and taking root.
So we end with this, a question that brings this whole grand ecological philosophy right back down to you. If possessing knowledge doesn't make you an owner, but a caretaker, then what truths, what ideas, what bits of wisdom are you responsible for patiently nurturing in the world?